We are here with David from Megadeth in Montreal. Welcome back to our fair city.
Thank you.
Now, Gigantour. Took a couple of years off. It's back. How's it going so far?
So far, it's been great. You know, it's a good bill, I think, first of all. You know, what's interesting about it, too, is that we are not the sort of elder statesman of it. Motorhead is, and that's what I think is kind of cool about this bill this year is that, you know, without Lemmy, there would be no thrash metal. Right. He's the founder, as far as I'm concerned, right? And behind him came Venom and all the rest of it, and then for us, and then Lacuna Coil, of course, have had good success on their own over the years, and then to bring out Volbeat, which is Danish brethren of
like mine,
right?
Me, yeah.
And Hank Sherman's out playing guitar, who is obviously the Merciful Fate guitar player. So I met Hank a few years ago over in Denmark, and he's great, and it's cool to hear a band that has something really new and fresh like that, you know, to be on a tour like this. So it's, you know, to me, anytime you do these festivals, if it's all one genre, it's like going to hear like 6 hours of the same song, you know, and after a while your head hurts, you know, and you're just like, oh, get me out of here. So I think with Gigantour, there's a nice variety of music on it, and
now, the previous ones, you've put out DVDs and stuff like that. Are you planning on doing the same kind of thing this time out? I heard talk of it, and I'm not sure if we're going to do it or not, but obviously anytime I think a big package thing like this goes around, there's always a conversation of filming it, you know, so I haven't heard any more about it other than maybe. Yeah. One of those maybe. Yeah. Now, while you're on the road this time, you're filming little vignettes, you're putting them up on YouTube and stuff like that. So it's nice to embrace the media like that, the social medias. Is that something at some point you want to collect those things and put them out as some kind of package, or?
You know, to me, the reason I do that is because, you know, you get to a certain level and you become kind of
distant.
Yeah, you're distant, you know, and to me it's important to have that connection, especially coming back into the Megadeth here a couple years ago. To me, you know, to play these songs is such a thrill, to be back working with Dave, to be back with our fans, you know, I consider it a real treat, you know. It's not something that most people get to do a first time. For us to get to do it a second time, and especially Megadeth now almost 30 years into our career to keep doing this. I mean, we wouldn't be here without the fans, and to me, we started like this. You know, it started as tape trading. We all made demos, and our demos got, you know, traded around the world, and so to me, I don't look at it so much as social media as much as it's a way to be connected with our fans at the very organic level that it started at back in the early 80s.
Is it really important in these days now that, you know, with all the downloading and all this stuff, that you need to create some kind of new connection with them?
I just think it's important. You know, years ago, Capitol Records started up Megadeth Arizona, which was, as far as I know, the first rock and roll band website ever. And that was in 1994 for the Euthanasia album. And me and Dave were all over. We were already into computers and all that stuff. And I remember we were going to South America with our laptops and 56K modems. And down in places like Argentina and Chile and stuff, they didn't even have the same phone line. I mean, we're calling the tech guys at the hotel to come up, the janitor, to help us, hard wiring our computers in just so we could go online and chat and do all that stuff. It was just fascinating for us. You know, it was just so cool to be connected with the fans in the same way, and so then we secured the Megadeth.com domain and put up Megadeth.com, and then that became the main portal, and now of course there's Facebook and YouTube and all this stuff. And I mean, you know, to me it's like, it takes nothing to have a video camera, shoot a little thing, you know, to me as a fan, because I'm a fan first, and then I became a bass player, and then, you know, all the rest of it. And to me, to look backstage and be part of this whole big rock and roll machinery, man, it's fun, man. I love it. So if I can give that back to the fans, then to me it's a good day.
Yeah. Now let's talk about 13. It came out last year. Are you currently writing songs for a next album? We
have some songs that didn't go on this record that I think are great songs. In fact, there was a couple, because we went back and listened to stuff, and we had several listening sessions and compiling sessions of, you know, there were things from like cassette recorders, there were things that we would call into our voicemail on our phone, right? There were things from Blackberries, just all these little, we finally got all, you know, compiled into a hard drive, so at least we know where it all is. And we started listening back to it, and, you know, that's where all of a sudden these little seeds of ideas would come out. And And there's a few songs from back when that we put on this record. They just seem to be the right time and place to put those songs on. And there's still a bunch of stuff that we have that's...
Now, does that come out as a new album or just as an EP, sort of an in-between
kind
of thing?
We're not even close to that yet.
Okay.
You know, I mean, really, but I just know that there's a ton of stuff sitting there that we could instantly go back and revisit and keep moving forward.
Now, is there stuff from way back in the 80s and 90s that you might want to go back and
I don't know
visit?
about 80s, but 90s for sure. I mean, there's stuff that I heard that even, you know, on this record there was things that I would listen back to and I go, oh my gosh, that's like Nick and Marty. Like remember standing in Rome at the arena, like sound checking these things, you know. Right. And there's some sound check from somewhere years ago, and even writing sessions from cryptic writings and stuff like that. So I mean, it's great that we kept all this stuff. To me, that's the cool part, I think.
Now, while you were gone from the band, you obviously did your own solo projects,
right?
Is there anything going on solo-wise? I mean, outside of Megadeth, are you still going to be doing things, or have you decided, nope, got to focus, this is it?
Musically, it's pretty tough to start fitting a bunch of stuff in. I have other stuff that I'm always writing.
Right.
I've guested on various little records. Probably my main thing is this book that I'm doing called Unsung Words and Images.
Right.
And that was a lot of lyric ideas that I had, some recent, some from way back, but I had an idea to put the book together, and instead of putting them to music, putting really cool photographic images together. There's a woman out of Italy. I'm using a lot of the photographic images that she has. I have an editor out of London. A friend of mine in Phoenix, Arizona is actually my co-creator of the book with me. He actually even co-wrote a couple of the lyric ideas. He's written a poetry book, a really dark, heavy poetry book. Nice. It's cool, yeah. And it's so this whole idea came together, and I think either late February or early March we'll have the book out. I'm going to self-publish it through Lulu.com, so people can just go right to that site, Lulu, buy it, and go. Well, you know what I like about it is you can test print stuff from there and then go to another publisher and do it. But you know what? I'm on the road working, you know what I mean? And I don't have time to sit and fulfill orders or hire a staff to do that. So it's like, for me, the creative journey is the fun of it, you know, and the fact that there's an entity that can self-publish it and put it out so that as people want to buy it, they can.
Right.
And so that's really my next little creative thing, and that's nice because it doesn't get in the way of anything musically that Megadeth is doing.
Now, we spoke a bit about getting online and stuff. You're trying to be a minister, or you're reaching out to the Lutheran Church to become ordained?
Basically, the Concordia Seminary, which is based in St. Louis, they have a distance education
program
track. Yeah, I mean, if you continue it, you can get a 4-year degree. If you do 6 years, it's like a Master's of Divinity. So what I'm doing is I'm just doing it to just have the higher education. After 2 years, my church can ordain me, so essentially I can marry him and bury him, I guess. But
that's right.
Right, you know, but or I can become the rock and roll chaplain, you know what I mean? I mean, the military has one, the golf pros have one, so maybe I'll be the one for rock and roll.
Going back to the 80s and 90s, Megadeth, along with some of the other bands, were protested. Your music was too violent. You were all that stuff.
Yeah.
Is there a clash between the sort of the religious world and the Megadeth world?
Well, the religious people, you know what I mean? And it's interesting. I've read the Bible 4 times now, cover to cover, over the last 4 years. I do these kind of year through the Bible tracks. And the reason I started reading it is I got so sick of the conservative religious right bringing politics in, giving this inference that if you're not one of us right-wingers, then you're not a Christian, or you have the faith wrong, and that pissed me off. I was like, you know what, that can't be right. And the more I read the Bible, I'm just convinced Jesus was a liberal. Because as the Sadducees and Pharisees were criticizing him, he was out hanging with the sinners, you know. And it's funny, as people have heard about me in the rock and roll circles, you know, taking up this seminary degree, the sinners of rock and roll have been totally supportive. They're like, dude, that is the coolest thing. And just knowing you, they're like, you know what, you're like that's a great.
Was there any fear in you to announce it publicly? Did you think?
I've been doing it actually for a little while now. I'm actually kind of wrapping up my 2nd semester of it, so I've been doing it for a while. This newspaper out of St. Louis wanted to do a story on it, mostly about doing the distance education. And I did my bachelor's degree online. and now doing a seminary degree online. And as traveling the world like this, there's no other way I could ever do higher education. I mean, I can't attend a class.
Do you take any of this and translate it into what Megadeth puts out? I mean, lyrically or image-wise?
It's funny, Revolver Magazine, I remember reading a couple years ago, they did a story about the books that influence heavy metal, and the Bible was still the number one. I mean, the entire book of Isaiah is like an Iron Maiden album. You know what I mean? It's like these and it's fascinating. I think for all of us, we're fascinated by it. And so where maybe we felt, I think me for sure, and a lot of my generation, where it's like we got to a certain point where we're like, you know what, I don't have to go to church anymore. I'm out of here. I'm not going to go back. In recent years, and I say recently, maybe 10, 15 years ago, music got better. Church became more contemporary, so it actually spoke more to our culture, And if things don't stay culturally relevant, they kind of go away. I mean, the Word of God, I think, is something that's consistent. It's timeless. It's there forever because, that's the connection between us all, But the way that religious people tend to they find God, they get religious, and they separate themselves from people, to me, the Word of God is meant to connect us, not separate us, right?
Well, essentially, that's what it's supposed to do.
So that to me is it's, and I've had a lot of talks with the religious people about it. I said, look, man, I'm out here playing bass, we're playing rock and roll. It's like, our audience are not like bad people.
Do you think you could still have this message as a starting heavy metal band? Because you look at Judas Priest and Rob Halford being gay, and they were like, no, can't tell anybody. And then he came out, and it was like, they still rock. And people went,
they don't care.
And you went out and you crushed heads. In the 80s and 90s, people went, oh.
Yeah.
And now you're saying it, and people seem like, okay, I'm at the show tonight, so what?
Well, a lot of us rebelled against the church thing. And again, I didn't really rebel against it because my parents supported me playing music. So when you don't have to rebel against people, you can play for it for genuine reasons. But when the people would stand outside our concerts and wave their banners about how we're leading people into temptation, and all that kind of stuff, it's like, first of all, I disagree with that. But those people were the ones that I think, if you're trying to carry a message, whatever it is, to somebody, it's like to stand in judgment of them. It always, again, creates the separation. And look, I'm here to play bass, entertain. We're Megadeth. That's what we do. I'm not here, swinging a Bible around trying to change people. But the education of it is great. Part of it is certainly historical, and I think anytime you engage into anything of the spiritual world, it speaks to you, and I like modern day delivery of the Word of God. It's I think that's a good thing.
And let's get back to the band for a while.
Yeah.
Since you've come back, the band has changed. New guitar player, new drummer, or at least new to you.
Yeah.
How is it fitting in with those guys? I mean, do you come back and say, hey, where's Nick and where's Marty? Or do you say, wow, look at these guys, Chris?
I came back, with, again, I've got the history.
Right.
But clearly it was a new band, and it was a new mindset.
Right. I mean, you weren't coming home, essentially. You were coming to a new band.
It really was. I mean, it was really a connection of Dave and I playing together.
Right.
That was definitely a connection of the past. My first thing, and I kind of, in the back of my mind, is going, it's going to kind of depend on how Sean plays. Because as a bass player,
well, as a rhythm section,
I already know how me and Dave play. I know where our pocket is. But where do I connect with Sean? And man, as soon as he started playing, he's got this really relaxed backbeat feel to how he plays that really makes playing these songs much more comfortable. In fact, now that I kind of go back through the catalog and listen to them, I can tell where the different drummers place the beat. And it's huge, man. It's huge. That's why I think the Rust in Peace tour really did well on this last outing that we did a couple years ago because, the way Sean plays, certainly Chris, I think, is probably, the fans have welcomed him in probably the most since Marty Friedman, and fans have loved, I think, all the guitar players, but I think Chris has really... his abilities are just fantastic, So
especially when he does the flamenco and all that other stuff.
I know.
Now, is this the lineup that you wish carries on, or because there has been a lot of changes in those two positions?
Yeah.
Is this one of these where 3-4 years down the road you think they might change again, or you think no? I hope we got to.
I hope it doesn't change. I hope it doesn't change, because it's a bummer when it changes, because you never know what you're stepping into. You know what I mean? It's like one chemistry change. One member change really changes the whole workings and the whole dynamic. So right now it's working. Everybody seems very happy to be here. We work very good together as a team. Everybody's really into the music. And the one thing I noticed coming back is that there's a much greater work ethic, I think, now than there's ever been before, as far as really showing up, digging in, really, we run through the entire set.
Is that a question of maturity, or is that a question of more business acumen, or just the personnel?
I think it's a desire to, number one, musically want to be as good as we possibly can, right? Number one. And number two, knowing that the more disciplined you are, that, practicing shows up in your playing right away, whether it's personal practicing or group rehearsing. And I think that has kept the consistency of the shows fantastic for the last couple of years.
Yeah. Now, is Megadeth here to stay, or are you thinking 5 years down the road, let's do our farewell tour, and we're not at that stage?
My attitude is as long as fans want to come and see us, we should just keep doing it.
As long as you can put me in a wheelchair and get me on stage. No, good. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yep.
Pleasure.
Good chatting with you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.